Over the past 2 weeks, we have noticed a significant escalation in both the level and sophistication of Russia's military interference in Ukraine. The satellite images released today provide additional evidence that Russian combat soldiers equipped with sophisticated heavy weaponry are operating inside Ukraine's sovereign territory. These latest images provide concrete examples of Russian activity inside Ukraine, but they are only the tip of the iceberg in terms of the overall scope of Russian troop and weapons movements. We have also detected large quantities of advanced weapons, including air defense systems, artillery, tanks, and armored personnel carriers being transferred to separatist forces in eastern Ukraine. The presence of these weapons, along with substantial numbers of Russian combat troops inside Ukraine, make the situation increasingly grave. Russia is reinforcing and resupplying separatist forces in a blatant attempt to change the momentum of the fighting, which is currently favoring the Ukrainian military. Russia's ultimate aim is to alleviate pressure on separatist fighters in order to freeze this conflict, which would result in further tragedy for the people of eastern Ukraine. NATO is currently using the term incursion. It is not up to NATO to define the Russian activities at this moment. But the point is, of course, that it is extremely worrying what we are seeing at this moment, and it's a severe escalation of the situation in Ukraine. There is contact between Russian and Ukrainian troops, and we have seen that, of course, in the form of Russian troops being held captive by Ukrainian forces. That is concerning. To what extent they are actively engaged in the fighting, we can deduct from the type of weaponry that is being employed inside Ukraine. This is highly sophisticated weaponry which require well-trained crews, well-trained command and control elements, and it is extremely unlikely that this sort of equipment is used by volunteers. The equipment is used by units which are coherent and well trained, and for soldiers to turn sides, and I have seen soldiers who've turned sides, they do not integrate particularly well in any unit at all, and that does not make for a coherent unit. Russia's ultimate aim is to alleviate pressure on the separatists, and its aim is to freeze this conflict for a prolonged period of time. Russia obviously is determined to retain influence in eastern Ukraine and is willing to use any means to do so. It's likely that the situation will end in a stalemate. At least the foothold that has been created will be expanded and will be secured, so that the separatists will not suffer a defeat, and Russian influence is continues to be in place in the east of Ukraine. Well, what we've shared with you today is obviously to make public that there's a severe escalation in the situation. Now, NATO has been observing this for some time, and NATO is in the process of making longer-term plans, which will be discussed at the NATO summit next week. NATO is doing something in the form of this press release today and sharing information with you. That is something that we can do. And other than that, NATO is focusing on collective defense, using reassurance measures, and is making plans for its longer term, which will be discussed next week.